Welcome to Inner Shift. Welcome to Inner Shift. Take a breath. This is a space designed to help you step out of the illusions of the mind and into clear awareness. Listen to the voice inside your head right now, the one narrating your thoughts. We spend our entire lives assuming we are that voice. But if you are the one speaking, who is listening? In this session, we will look at that narrator through the lens of clinical neuroscience to see what happens when we question its authority. When we mistake that running commentary for our true identity, we trap ourselves in a state of quiet panic. Our deepest anxieties stem directly from this basic misunderstanding of our own perspective. Humans developed a highly advanced predictive brain. We forecast the weather, plant crops for the winter, and plan decades into the future. But that cognitive power carried a heavy tax. We are the only animals aware that our physical forms will eventually expire. According to terror management theory, the raw reality of our own mortality is too overwhelming for our default neurology to process. A biological system programmed for self-preservation cannot integrate the certainty of its own end. So the brain deploys a shield. That shield is the ego. It is a fabricated sense of an isolated, enduring self, constructed specifically to filter out the threat of our physical limits. The voice in your head is, in many ways, a survival mechanism. Because the ego refuses to accept physical death, it seeks symbolic immortality. It drives us to accumulate wealth, chase social status, and build legacies, attempting to anchor ourselves in a world that is inherently temporary. Living entirely within this construct takes an emotional toll. It forces us into a state of continuous defensiveness, where any reminder of our limit is treated as an active threat. We spend our days treating death as a specter to be avoided. That heavy, background exhaustion you feel at the end of the day is often just the friction of the ego. It is the fatigue of running endlessly on a treadmill, trying to outpace a certainty that we refuse to look at. But what happens if we stop running? Ancient traditions have long practiced memento mori, the deliberate contemplation of our own mortality. By turning toward our limit rather than away from it, we test whether that defensive panic is a permanent feature of the human mind. Recently, clinical neuroscientists put this to the test. They placed long-term meditators into MEG scanners to measure how their brains processed death-related words compared to individuals without any meditation experience. This line graph visualizes the baseline predictive response of the non-meditating group. When exposed to mortality reminders, their neural signals suppress. The brain flattens its attention to the stimulus, actively blocking the information to defend the ego from the threat. Now, the exact same graph updates to display the meditator's data. Notice the contrast. When exposed to the same death-related words, their neural signals produce a sharp, clear spike. Their predictive systems do not block the stimulus. They accept the information as reliable, showing a distinct peak in cognitive engagement. Researchers trace this shift directly to the posterior medial cortex. By contemplating their own impermanence, the meditators attenuated activity in this region, physically lowering the rigid boundaries of what we experience as the embodied self. The data reveals that our paralyzing fear of mortality is an unlearned behavior. Through mental training, the brain can be rewired out of a state of denial and into a state of physiological acceptance. Philosopher Eckhart Tolle observes that realizing our physical impermanence does the work of dismantling the ego's delusions. When we recognize that this specific form is temporary, the inflated importance of our daily dramas begins to collapse. This neurological shift correlates with an internal experience known as self-dissolution. The rigid, defensive perimeter we spent decades building around our identity dissolves, allowing the heavy boundaries of the self to fall away. What remains is a clear shift in perspective. You begin to observe the ego, your anxieties, and your internal monologue as passing clouds. The true self is the unchanging sky behind them. Looking directly at our physical limit does not destroy us. It strips away the illusion of the narrator, revealing a dimension of quiet awareness. Psychologists define this state through meaning management theory. When an individual accepts their end, the ego becomes what researchers call tranquil. It powers down because it no longer has an illusion to defend. This translates into an observable behavioral shift. Take a moment to hold on to the shift you feel right now. The spaciousness behind your thoughts is always there, waiting for you to notice it. We will continue exploring how to access it in future videos. Thank you for joining us at Inner Shift. Our time is finite. That limit provides the structure for a life lived with intention.